Imagine standing on an athletic field with a group of men, each carrying 2 hickory sticks, running at you, willing to run you over, pick you up, throw you down, tackle you, and hit you in order to advance the little leather ball that lies at your feet. This may seem juvenile or even scary, but this is stickball, specifically Choctaw stickball. The sport is violent with few rules and defiantly true to Native American roots. And each summer, a tournament is held to decide the champion of this game, known in Choctaw as Tilo. I would like to tell you about the annual Choctaw Stickball Championship Tournament held in Philadelphia, Mississippi, each year. For the last 3 years, I have attended the Choctaw Indian Fair, and one main part of the fair are the Stickball Championships. The first time I witnessed a stickball game, I had lots of questions. I have since interviewed players, read publications, watched many games, and researched history, rules, and the evolution and how the game is played today. Let me explain to you a little history, the rules, and lastly, the thrilling game that is played today at the World Championship Tournament. For centuries, tribes settled their disputes without weapons. Hence stickball's nickname, it's the little brother of war. Games were played to 100 and sometimes with hundreds of players. They competed for days on fields that even spanned miles. In his book, The Mississippi Choctaws at Play, anthropologist Kendall Blanchard describes how a 18th century game may have looked. He says, the nature of the playing field was definitely, strictly defined. The only boundaries were the 2 goalposts at either end of the playing field, and these could be anywhere from 100 feet to 5 miles apart, as was the case in one game in the 19th century. Their traditional dress was nothing but a small apron or loincloth and body paint. The players often adorned their hair and sticks with the skin or feathers from swift animals to ensure swift ball play. The rules have been amended over time, but still, only few rules remain today. Again, Kendall Blanchard explains, the rules, like the layout of the field, were ambiguous and limited to only 3 or 4 stipulations. Of primary importance was the restriction that no player was to touch the ball with his hands, using instead only his sticks to carry and throw the small ball. At no time were the spectators allowed to interfere with the process. If they did, a penalty was assessed against their team. That's one rule that has been the same since the beginning. No touching the ball. All advances must be done with the sticks. Today's game is played on a 100-yard grass football field, but the object is still the same. Opposing team members use 2 handcrafted hickory sticks called kabucha and a woven ball called toa. Each team tries to advance the ball down the field to the opposing team member's goalposts, only with their sticks. The points are scored when a player hits the opposing team's goalpost with the ball. The goalposts are 12 feet high, 4x4, vertical square posts. Today's stickball is no longer a game of war, but it's still fought hard, just not as hard as in the past. Consider what American anthropologist James Moody had to say about it when he witnessed it in the late 1800s. He says, I quote, almost everything short of murder is allowed. Now the history is set and the rules are understood. Let's get to the tournament. Boom, boom, boom. The stands are full with 5,000 people from infant to great-grandma. Boom, boom, boom. The first team walks onto the field led by a pounding drum and followed by smacking the hundreds of kabucha from the players. Here's how Baxter Holmes from the LA Times sees it. He says, the 200 or so sticks slamming together create a high-pitched clatter, like simultaneous pistol fire that echoes off the asphalt and syncs up with the drum being pounded about 60 beats per minute. That's the tempo of a healthy beating heart at rest, and that's what the drumming represents. It's the game's heartbeat. A 10-member ambulance crew also adorns the field, with ambulances at the ready. Usually watching from the west end zone. The players wear no pads, no helmets, and rarely shoes. Most veterans have multiple scars, often on their eyebrows, because that's where nearly the 32-inch long sticks crafted from concrete carved hickory tend to smack. The 9-day Choctaw World Series Stickball Championship Tournament that once featured 45 teams has been narrowed down to 2. It is now Saturday night in time for the championship. 13 orange-shirted referees that officiate are in place. If the ball sails out of bounds, the nearest referee throws the ball up into play, so no play is stopped. The referee now focuses on the players, making sure they don't touch the toe with their hands. The whistle blows. Now the war begins. In closing today, I talked about the ancient game still played in Mississippi. We talked about the history, the rules, and the evolution and how it's played today. If you visit the Choctaw Indian Fair, please schedule time to see the stickball game. You'll be watching history, sporting event, and as Owen Williams, a 59-year-old who works in the Oklahoma City Indian Museum says, it's probably the only thing we've kept as cultural property. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you at the stickball game.